my hand and welcome him to downtown Rotary.
Thank you, Terry. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Burbank, and I'm honored to be here today to talk about some important stuff that's really near and dear to a lot of people's hearts and minds and souls, and that is mental health. There's a lot of people in this world that are struggling with their own mental health. They have a diagnosis, and they're working through they're having to work through these challenges of what they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Some are struggling day by day, just trying to get by, living on a prayer. Others are thriving, like myself, who are actually working on being a success story to maintain an image for other people to be an inspiration for. So to be quite honest with you all today, I've spoken to many other audiences on this topic of mental health because it's near and dear to my own heart. I've gone through so many different mental health challenges in my own adult life. Once I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, that's the cat's out of the bag. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the age of 19, and I'm actually 28 years old now. And despite the challenges that I've experienced, I'm still trying to maintain wisdom, maintain a positive light, a positive viewpoint on my own life, so that I can be an inspiration and a motivating factor for the lives of other people who have mental health challenges. A statistic for you, to be real brief. According to NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, 1 in 5 adult Americans is living with a mental illness. And there are children who are impacted at a young age, like myself at 19, but there's children who are diagnosed at younger ages than that who have a diagnosis. Now, I don't know where you stand with your viewpoint on mental health and where you believe if this is even an important topic, but for me, when I speak about it, I speak from experience. I speak from the challenges that I've had to encounter, and we're going to talk about some of these briefly in today's presentation as well. So the 5 components that I'm hoping to cover briefly: hospitalizations, halfway house, mental health treatment program, homelessness and homelessness recovery, and the last one, number 5, return to work phase. To start with, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the age of 19 after I returned home from studying abroad in Barcelona, Spain. So I can totally empathize with you with Spain. It's a totally different environment than here, and I returned home with a reverse culture shock, which means that I was kind of like totally scatterbrained and trying to find success and trying to find my own place. I was a young 19-year-old, which a lot of people can relate to that. When you're at that age, you're still learning your steps towards achievement, asking yourself, what do I want to do? What's my purpose in life? And so, although my whole entire 20s has been very much, there's been a lot of challenges that I've had to encounter, and how I bounce back is nothing short of a miracle. So the hospitalizations, though, each hospitalization that I've been through, I've probably been through around 4 or 5 major hospitalizations where I had to go to a psych ward. And so in this experience, each hospitalization has its own challenges. Each hospitalization has its own reason behind why you're there, because you're going through a different situation. The dynamics in your life are very difficult and hard to work through. So that's kind of where I've learned to embrace the fact that I've had to go through these challenges, but I'm not letting it stop me from being able to shoot for the stars and aim for the moon. And if I can achieve those goals and be happy with myself, then that's what it's all about. So there's been a lot of grind time, practice, preparation, the necessary things that I've had to do, the sacrifices that I've had to make to get on stage regularly and to make a difference to the lives of other people makes all the difference. And so my hope is that there's a lot of empathy that it can be filtered throughout this room right now, because at the bottom line is we all have different ways of how our mind and brains and chemical equation works, but by being able to empathize with the challenges and the pain points that I've been through, that I'm inviting you now to see that change is possible. I work at a non-for-profit organization in Bellingham called the Whatcom Clubhouse. This is a not-for-profit organization that aims specifically to help the target market. And you have so many different questions right now to think about. Well, how are you helping people get off the streets? Well, how are you helping people? It's one conversation at a time. That's the chemical equation for change, for fostering a positive standpoint for other people, and really just being able to be a supportive person and asking yourself, what does change look like for me? What does helping another person look like? For me, when I'm at the clubhouse, for example, at my work, and I only work there part-time, but it makes a huge impact because when I talk with different people about how they're doing, how their day's going, some people say good, some people say they're in a bad place. But by being able to support people and meet them where they're at, that's what it all boils down to. Changes can be created, the link for empathy can be created so that other people can empathize and work through their challenges and become in a better place than they were prior. And that's kind of my goal, is that every time I have a conversation with people when I'm at the clubhouse, I want to be able to be an inspiration for them and tell them that change is possible, that they don't have to give up on themselves, because I haven't, quite frankly, given up on myself. I have a lot of ambitions to wanting to continue this speaking journey, and this is only the beginning. I've had to learn sacrifice. I've had to learn humility, tremendous amount of humility, because as I start to see and as I start to grow in my own speaking career, I start to see how much of kind of like what you were saying today earlier, just how like you have a lot of responsibility when you are doing big things. When you are making a strong impact towards other people, you have a lot of people that are looking up to you. So that's why it's like, for me, I don't want to let them down. The people who support me and who have a lot of positive viewpoints to help guide me so that I can be able to be the simple person that I am and not overwhelm things. I don't want to overwhelm things too much. I want it to be clear, concise, straightforward, and just rinse and repeat. Work on one thing at a time, and eventually you'll get through the thick of the challenges, and eventually you'll see that it was just your mindset at the whole time onset that was getting in your way. So back with the hospitalizations in itself, these hospitalizations were very different and unique. And so the positive thing, even though I didn't want to be there for certain time periods, many times I didn't want to be at the hospital, but I had no choice. So that's where it's like I had to learn through working with what I got in my life currently, work through what I was experiencing presently, and ask myself, how am I going to work through these challenges? Now, just on another note, I love what you were saying earlier about how God is helping you in your life, because God is definitely helping me in my own life, in my own recovery, and my own sustainability, and giving myself purpose, because I want to make a difference. And I know that when I do talk on stage, I can make an impactful viewpoint for other people, but it's a matter of belief. It's a matter of telling yourself, you can do this. Just be comfortable. Just take a step back. Be positive with yourself. Treat yourself with kindness. Too many people in this world who have a diagnosis or who don't have a diagnosis get into this state of mind that's very redundant, and it's like it can trap you. And my hope is that I can give you inspiration to say, get out of that box, and don't just stop yourself from what you can actually achieve in your life, and that transformation is possible for yourself whether you have a diagnosis or not, because some people just deal with light depression or mild depression, anxiety. There's a lot of different diagnoses out there that are prevalent for other people, and I know that if this is still in this present day, there's a lot of stigma. And so my hope is that I am making an impact for other people to be able to give them a way to be more open with other people, and rather than having a stigmatized approach and feeling uncomfortable when you're talking to different people just because they have a diagnosis. No. Let's take that away. Let's focus more on how we can accept other people and bring people into our communities, so that way, and obviously having respect and responsibility and accountability. Those are three things that I stand firmly for as well. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm trying to provide for you guys and to help give you guys more awareness around mental health awareness and around somebody who is literally constantly around other people and trying to make a difference for the lives of other people, especially the mental health community. Guys, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for my diagnosis. And it's only a part of my journey. It's only a part of my story. There's so much more to Brandon Burbank than what meets the eye. It's what's on the inside that matters. And that's where I'm like telling myself, you can do this. You've been through a lot. Your story is powerful. You've been, through some traumatizing situations in my 20s, but that doesn't mean that it's going to stop me from trying to become the best version of myself and allowing myself to live openly and freely in the way that I want to live so that I can inspire other people. Because here's the thing. I might sound really good right now, but guess what? There's days when I feel bad. There's days when I feel like I'm discouraged. There's days when I feel unsure about how to navigate my life. And on those days, it's especially hard to get productive and work through stuff out. But because of the fact that I'm passionate about what I do, I love what I do to motivate other people with mental health challenges, that's the missing link for me that makes me happy. So it's like a light bulb just turns on immediately to help inspire other people and give people more purpose and more of a positive state of mind. So that's where it all boils down to, is just asking yourself, how do you work through these challenges? What makes you feel uncomfortable? Recognizing your triggers, your trigger points. That's another great important concept that I wanted to reiterate about. Everybody who has a diagnosis, for example, or who just might be dealing with depression, we all get triggered in some certain ways. Maybe it might be because you've had a traumatizing experience in your past. Maybe it might mean because it reminds you of certain things that haven't been pleasant in your life. And that's kind of where I'm trying to give you more of the symptomologies of mental illness and mental health challenges that has helped me create the person that I am today, and it's helped me understand more of myself, because I have symptomologies that make me feel uncomfortable at times, but I want to be able to make a positive impact, and so that's why I work to avoid those things, because I know my challenges. Let's see. I've just gone through a lot of trauma, like for abandonment at times. When I was in the halfway house in 2017, I was a 20-year-old kid who was just discharged from the hospitalization experience at the psych ward, and I was alone by myself. And so that abandonment was hard, because I was kind of isolated from the rest of the community, because I was in this place called the halfway house. It's called Agate Heights facility in Bellingham, Washington, and that's part of what is an example of a symptomology of like something that triggers you. And when you get triggered, you feel uncomfortable. You feel really put off. You feel really tense. You might get anxious. You might start to get really stressed out. These are examples of what people are experiencing if they don't feel welcomed in a different environment. And so my hope in introduction for you all today is to think more about if you might know somebody. There's the other thing. You might not be going through something that's very hard with your challenges, but I can guarantee you might know somebody who is working optimistically on their own recovery, who has a mental health crisis. And my question to you is, how are you going to be a supportive leader in their life, especially when sometimes they might be very hard to work with, or just they're hard to cooperate with. Like I have certain family members in my life who I know they love me and care about me genuinely, but sometimes they just trigger me. They make me feel uncomfortable. And so for me, that hard point to be able to find clarity and find peace of mind with my family members can be hard. So those are just a couple of examples with the symptomologies of bipolar disorder and just triggers of what might cause triggers for you in your life, or just other people who have a mental illness. The next thing is, so I talked a little bit about being in the halfway house. Let's see here. Also, I want to make a couple highlights right now. I've lived in other places. I've lived in Seattle, Washington for 10 months, a couple years back, and then I lived in Long Beach, California for about roughly 2 years ago, and I lived there for about a total of 2 years. And so because of this robust amount of experience, it's given me the ability to be more dynamic. And as I continue to get stronger and work through my own challenges and work through my baggage, here's an example for you. I did a speech last week. I spoke in Yakima for a conference called the Dual Diagnosis, Co-occurring Diagnosis Conference in Yakima. And my speech in itself, I was very uncomfortable. I was very nervous. I could feel it. I could tell. But because of that, I didn't let that stop me from continuing on. And that's kind of my point is another overlying theme in today's presentation. Don't give up. Keep believing in yourself. Stop doubting what you are capable of accomplishing, and start to dream more and thinking about how you can do it. I mean, here's another thing I'll say. I work hard in what I do, and whether it be with my work at the part-time job at the Walk-In Clubhouse, to then being able to be on stage and talking to people, like in the preparation work that is required for this, it's taken me years. But I guess what? It's meant for me because it's gotten me this far in my life. And so my experience is by living in Southern California, living in Seattle, Washington, and growing up most of my life in Bellingham, Washington, it's made me who I am today. So my hope is that this speech is giving you more awareness about a success story for somebody who's actually walked the walk with mental illness and mental health challenges, and is able to give you encouragement and inspiration so that you can work on yourself to become being well with your own self, but also recognizing that you might have a neighbor or a friend or a loved one in your life who is struggling with their own mental health. So my point is that empathy will help that, will solve that tremendously, and if not completely, it will start a conversation to help change that. I'd like to pause before we finish up now and ask the audience to, there's on your tables right now, there are a few QR codes. If you could do a quick survey on how I've done so far in my speech, and then give me a thumbs up when you're done, and then I will finish up the speech. Thank you. And then we could do Q&A if there's time. Thank you. Yes.
You have a wonderful program and a bright future.
Thank you.
But I have a question for you. Everybody has their release button, where you step back, you take a breath, and you have a moment for yourself. What's you golf? What is it for you that makes your time relax?
Yeah, no, that would be running. I run to stay fit because I know that your physical health is just as important as your mental health. So my fitness is an important part of me. I run at a park called Lake Padden Park in Bellingham, and I run there probably 3 times a week at least to just to work on my own fitness level and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. That would be my other thing besides just reading. That's another thing I do a lot of. I love to read to learn. So once you're done, just give me a thumbs up, please. Thank you, guys. Done? Cool. Great. We'll take 30 more seconds. All right. right, so yeah, mental health is something that I'm passionate about, if you can't already tell by now. But the reason why I'm here is because the people who have helped me when I was in crisis, moments of crisis, when I was homeless at the time and in transition from being in California to Washington State. And what that looked like for me was, it was very troubling because I didn't know how to work out through this. So I had one choice: either continue being homeless. This was about 2 years ago from now. Either continue being homeless or go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and then luckily they referred me to another organization called Sun House Community, which is an organization that helps people who are recently homeless to get off the streets and find a stable place to work on their own recovery. So for me, that has helped me tremendously, because what that opportunity gave me is it allowed me to work through my own baggage. And I was also working with a therapist at the time who was super helpful and very helpful in the symptomologies of what I've experienced and how I'm working on not giving up on myself. And so that's kind of where the bottom line is just don't give up on yourself. If you have a big dream and ambitions to be the person that you want to be, you have to start putting in the work. And I found myself being able to put in the work on a consistent basis, even now, because I've just been patient, and I've also allowed God to let Him take control of my life rather than trying to control everything in my life. Because I used to try to control everything, but it's like you have to let go. You have to just let go and be yourself, and try and just be the best version of yourself, and ask yourself, how can I be better than I was yesterday? Okay, so the return to work phase is the last part that I'll cover in today's speech. The return to work phase, what that looks like is, like, for example, say you go into the hospitalization for a week or two, and then you return home, and then you're trying to decide how do you go back to work. On one of the occasions, in 2018, I was hospitalized in the fall of 2018, and then about a couple months later, I was able to successfully return to work. And I eased into work by working part-time, and I'll tell you so much about, folks, having a routine like a job is so beneficial for people who have a mental illness, because number one, it gives them purpose, it gives them motivation to want to improve themselves. And I'm not saying that everybody's perfect right now, because I would consider myself an exception of a lot of other people because of what I've been able to create tangibly so far. I've also published a book called Come Back to Success: Relentless Commitment for a Better Tomorrow. And some of these, what I've been able to accomplish since I started getting really serious about my career path is nothing shy of a miracle. And it's been a blessing to be able to see the transformation of Brandon Burbank from coming from low and struggle places to now being able to articulate myself effectively and helpful for other people. So with that being said, the return to work phase is different for each person, but also it's like, here's the other thing. You have to recognize that everybody has their own limitations and their own things of what they're working on. And so because of that, just recognize that each person has their own ways of how and so having an extra source of support for a person on the job could be a great place to start. Before then, people can let them work more independently on the job. So with that being said, that wraps up today's presentation. I would love to answer any questions if anybody has any questions. Thank you. Yes, in the back.
Just one observation and then two questions. The observation is, from your speech, you clearly strike me as someone who is sort of indelibly committed
Yes.
to trying to understand yourself and to create that kind of internal gyroscope that will put you on the path
Yes.
to wherever it is you think you need to go.
That's well
So I
said.
certainly applaud you working through the struggle
Thank you.
that is required to achieve the ability to have that kind of success. It's
Yeah.
no mean feat, so my hats off to you.
Thank you.
The two questions. you stated you had a choice between remaining homeless and seeking the help that you needed.
Yeah.
Now, there are many homeless individuals who in part are there because of some kind of mental illness from which they're suffering.
Some people don't want to get better. That's the thing.
So
They're content.
Right, so my question to you is what was it that made you realize, hey, I have to change my situation. I need to find somebody who will help me to go from living homeless to living another way of being. So
One of my mantras,
internally that led you to that decision?
yeah, I have a mantra for that question.
Let him answer.
Before you answer that question, let me ask you the other one.
Okay.
Marijuana.
Yeah.
A lot of research today has indicated that the marijuana of the 1960s is much less toxic and much less damaging in terms of brain chemical impacts than the marijuana that is smoked by young people today. So I'm curious if you've done any of your own research, perhaps in the process of writing a book, that has led you to some conclusions about the connection between what we see as increased consumption of marijuana by young people and increased incidences of mental health crises by young people. So those are the two questions.
Yeah, so the first question, I would say, I have a mantra that I use, and I still use it till this day. It's called this: winners never quit and quitters never win. So while I was in the hospitalization process from when I was returning home from studying abroad, when I was being hospitalized for being and homeless at the time, I used that mantra to help me continue to push through the challenges, because there were some rough days that were ahead of me when I self-admitted myself into the hospital during this time period. And now, as far as the medication goes with marijuana and stuff like that, I don't do much research on the marijuana, so I don't have much to say about that, but that would be my answer for you. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. If we could have you draw our raffle ticket.
Sure.
This. And go ahead and read the last three.
Okay.
Sorry.
Here you go. Oh no, you gotta, this is for you. The last three are 595.
Yeah.
595, not me.
Molly!
Oh, it's Wally. Thank you so much. And give another round of applause for her.
Thank you.
Legit, Wally, legit.
It is $51